Dr. Seuss had this amazing quote: "Be who you are and say what you feel, because those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind." Simple and powerful. Be who you want to be. Say what you want to say. Wear what you want to wear. Talk how you want to talk. Be your...
All right, folks. Here we go. All right. Episode 4 of GBG, Green Bay Greg. Like there was any doubt as to what I was going to wear today. Episode 4, episode Brett Favre. All right. So just a little recap of the last couple of days. Last night, went to my cousin's house for some dinner. He lives about an hour north of me. Just got to tell you, folks, there's something to be said for getting some venison cooked for you by a guy who has a beard that puts Grizzly Adams' beard to shame. And it's being cooked for you. First, it's being smoked outside. Then it's being seared on a cast iron skillet by a guy who, like I said, has got a Grizzly Adams type beard, and he's wearing latex gloves. Not because he's worried about COVID. Screw COVID. He's not worried about that. He's just got so many spices and seasonings and different things on that piece of venison that he doesn't want to ruin it. So the guy's wearing latex gloves. My God, quite possibly the greatest meal I've ever eaten in my life. There. That's a recap of my last couple of days. All right. So thanks for joining me. Whether you're on the RTF Sports Network, my show follows Benzi's Bit and Mike on the Mic, or you're on the Twist, our website, Twist the Week in Sports Talk, or you're following me on Facebook. Either one, I appreciate it. We're going to get in some crazy stuff this week. Like I said, this is episode 4. I'm excited. I don't want to set the bar too high for this episode, but I have a feeling that this episode may change your lives. This might quite possibly be the greatest half hour of your life. But, you know, who am I to say? All you got to do is sit back and pay attention. All right, so here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to go into this the way we always do. All right, let's start off with the sports talkers. So what we got going on right now is we have all the major sports that are kind of putting their plans together to come back. We have the NBA and the NHL, which, like I've said 1,000 times, are doing everything right. They're looking at a couple of games in the to finish out their regular season and get into a playoff format. I think that's a great idea. I think that what you're doing with that is you're being very sensitive to the COVID issues that are going out, not having all 30 or 32 teams come back, just the teams that have a chance of making the playoffs. And then you have a traditional playoff format. Keeps the integrity of the league, keeps the integrity of the trophy. Good for you guys. Then there's the NFL and college football. Look, here's the thing. I don't think I'm breaking any, secrets here, but there is so much money in football right now that they're going to play. I mean, even high schools now are putting together plans for, workouts starting in July and different things that they can do so they can get into football late August, early September. Look, there's a lot of money. I know that we're hearing a lot of things about colleges. The NFL is going to go on as it wants. There's too much money involved. But colleges, you're hearing a lot of stuff on the 5 o'clock news, 6 o'clock news, wherever you're at, that's saying, colleges aren't going to come back. And if colleges aren't back, then we can't let athletes come to campus if there's no students. Folks, drive down south once to, I don't know, Alabama, Louisiana, Florida, any school in the ACC or SEC, it's backwards. These kids aren't going to be allowed on campus unless there's football. Why? Daquan, there's too much money involved. They're going to make it happen. No need to worry. Then we get to my friend, the Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, for God's sakes, you guys can't get out of your own way. The players come with an idea, 114 games, blah, blah, blah. The owners, Major League Baseball, the owners come back and say, we're not even going to come back with a counter offer on this. Then what do? They come back with a counter offer. And now they're going to go back and forth and back and forth. They can't get out of their own way. Seriously, Major League Baseball, you guys are like that guy that graduated from college 10 years ago and you keep showing up at the high school football games and basketball games wearing your letter jacket from 10 years ago. and you talk to all the kids that are currently in school, tell them how cool you were back when you were there. And then before you know it, they're not listening to you anymore. They don't care. Then you start offering to buy them beer, and it's not that important to them because no one even wants to be your friend for that. You guys are becoming so irrelevant right now in an environment where you guys could own this. You guys have huge stadiums. People are coming back. You can have people outside, maybe at 25%, 50%, but you guys just can't get out of your own way. Sorry, folks, but you guys just cannot get out of your own way. So you know what? It is what it is. So moving on. Next one, NASCAR. Next, NASCAR, whose fans are extremely, from the South. Most of their fan base is from the South. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. And we're talking about the South, where they still fly Confederate flags. So what did they do yesterday at their event? They have a moment of silence. They have their one African-American driver wearing an "I Can't Breathe" t-shirt. And then they have the rest of the drivers turn off their engines to show some, solidarity to, the whole Black Lives Matter movement. Amazing. You guys hit it out of the park. And I want to use the phrase "you hit it out of the park" because it doesn't seem like baseball is going to be doing any of those anytime soon. But seriously, NASCAR, you guys hit the nail on the head. Nicely done. Brought a lot of awareness where it needed to be without being too excessive. And not, you didn't have your poster child, single black race car driver. He was just one of the guys, and that was amazing. Nicely done, NASCAR. All right. We're going to move on. You're better than that. All right. Golf.com put out a tweet which simply said peak Tiger or peak versus peak Rory. And it was a poll. They wanted people to vote on whether or not they believed who was a better golfer, Tiger in his prime or Rory McIlroy in his prime. Thank goodness that, golf.com came back and said, we need a mulligan on this one. You have a guy who's the career money winner. He's tied for the most wins of all time. One of the two greatest golfers of all time in Tiger Woods. And lo and behold, he also happens to be 50% African-American. And the other 50% of him is also a minority too. He's Asian. So you had an opportunity to profile him. How about you say Tiger and who could compete best in their peak during Tiger's peak? Not is Rory, let's just pick the Irish kid to go against him. For the love of God. Golf, you have one amazing African-American athlete in the culture that we live in right now. Let's not put out stupid tweets that talk about the legitimacy of his professional career. For God's sakes, I wouldn't even put Rory McIlroy in this generation as the top guy in his peak. I think Brooks Koepka has had a higher high than Rory did. But that's beside the point. It doesn't even matter. Dude, seriously, guys, get out of your own way. All right, we're moving on. We got a lot to cover. So we're moving on to the GBG moment of Zen. And what we're going to talk about today, kids, is credibility. And the two examples I'm going to bring up are Drew Brees and James Dolan. These two people are a complete juxtaposition of each other. On one hand, you have Drew Brees, who led the campaign to save, New Orleans, Louisiana, and help rebuild them from a social standpoint after Katrina. And in years after the rebuilding had gone on, they win the Super Bowl. Drew Brees had built up so much credibility that when he sent out a message the other day, which said, not to quote, but to paraphrase, that he cannot understand anyone who would kneel or disrespect the flag. And he started talking about his grandparents who fought in World War II, and it was all about disrespecting the flag to kneel. And then some players got a little heated, but other players said, hey, Drew, take a step back. It's not about disrespecting the flag. It's about bringing awareness to this issue. Then Drew Brees comes back essentially and says, got it. I understand. So it was this simple. Here's the thing is what the African-American athletes and the white athletes, everyone who's, part of this movement is now saying is, look, before the game, this is the only time we have to have our voices heard, or this is the only time we have to do our protest, which is during the national anthem. I'll get into that another day. Personally, with everything going on right now, I think it'd be appropriate if there was not maybe a moment of silence, maybe something where everyone takes a knee to bring awareness to this. I think it's that important. And on the other hand, you have James Dolan. James Dolan, who is the owner of the New York Knicks and by extension, owner of Madison Square Garden, can't do anything right. Dude, the one thing you have done right, from what I understand, you do hire a lot of minorities. Sometimes to a fault. You brought Isaiah Thomas back more times than you should have. But here's the thing. You have thrown your franchise, one of the staples of the NBA, one of the cornerstones of the NBA. You flushed that entire franchise down the toilet. You've kicked Charles Oakley, one of the best players from the 80s and early 90s from your franchise, kicked him out of your arena. Why? Because he didn't get along and then you started butting heads with Spike Lee because he didn't want to go into the correct door. You know what, James Dolan? Stay off this one. You don't need to make a comment. I mean, granted, I understand that it was a comment that you made to MSG staff talking about how you treat people by the character of their, you judge them by their character, not by the color of their skin. I get it, and I agree with you. I think it was a great message. I read the whole thing, but you know what? It's not you've lost all credibility with people. You're like a guy who has 2 DUIs, 13 speeding tickets, and a couple of disorderlies, and you want to go into the DMV and start teaching a class on driver safety. Slow down a little bit. You're not the right guy. So anyway, the point is that when you're Drew Brees, you can say something in a public forum, and then people are going to come back and say, whoa, take a step back. That's not what we meant. And then you turn around and then you apologize for it, and then you gain an understanding. Or you can be James Dolan and just have no flipping clue what's going on, and you just start mouthing off, and you look like even more of a fool. So that's my moment of Zen. Credibility. Kids, that's our word of the day. It's credibility. Next, we're going to go outside the arena, and what we're going to talk about is the Black Lives Matter movement. This is really important to me. And just like it's not just me, obviously, it's everybody. This is an important thing going on. I live in a suburb of Minneapolis, where all of this started. And I want to keep this kind of into, a sports framework, and I want to stay under, the idea that, we want to keep this as a sports show. So what I want to talk about is Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick it's kind of going off 4 years ago. He started to kneel down. He was the one who started this whole movement and kneel down during the national anthem. And he wasn't getting a lot of support. And he believes that he's been blackballed by the league, that people aren't, signing him. People weren't signing him. People weren't, giving him a fair opportunity to try out for an NFL team, because he's a decent quarterback from, the standards. He was 500 quarterback, roughly, maybe a couple games under, but had a couple of good games. Thought he's being blackballed by the league. Well, here's the thing, Colin. Maybe you're not the best messenger for this. And here's what I mean. Your movement that you want to start, Black Lives Matter, is extremely important. I believe that everyone, like Martin Luther King said, should be judged by their character, not by the color of their skin. In fact, I'll take a pause right here. I heard something. I'm not going to take credit for this. I heard something, read something, wherever it was, and it's extremely important. I can't believe we live in a society where one of the most insignificant traits a human being can offer society is the color of their skin, yet they are judged so foully by it. Think about that. What does the color of your skin offer society? Nothing. But yet you're judged by it. That's what's so horrible about the society that we're living in. And that's why I believe that these peaceful protests and the things that are going on are important. It's building awareness. But Colin Kaepernick, I don't think you're the best messenger. Why? You're like a petulant child. When you started this movement, it was important. But what happens almost right away, dude? You get seen and photographed, and it wasn't like you were secretly photographed by paparazzi. You lifted up your pant leg to show yourself wearing socks with character pigs on them, wearing a police uniform. You want to draw credibility? You know who you just gained as allies in this? other 13, 14-year-old kids. You look like a clown. And then after you were let go by the 49ers and other teams were, kicking the tires, seeing if they were going to, bring in for a tryout, the number one team that came out, hey, who would be a great fit? The Miami Dolphins. What happens? You then are seeing after it's all over the news. I mean, there's this 4-letter network that owns like 6 or 7 channels. I watch it a lot. It was all over the news. I'm sure you've seen it. Colin Kaepernick is wearing a Castro shirt, a shirt supporting Castro, when he's ready to go down to Miami, Florida to get ready to try out for the Dolphins. For the love of God, Colin, do you realize, gauge the temperature of the room you're about to walk into. Wearing a shirt that's supporting Castro in Miami, Florida is like trying to go work for a company owned by a Jewish person wearing a Hitler shirt. 50% of the population of Miami are refugees from Cuba who wanted to leave Cuba so bad that they went on rafts 50 miles to get to Miami. But you wear a shirt supporting him. So you know what, dude? Maybe you're not the best messenger. Your message is good, but we need to find a more responsible and mature person to run this campaign. You did a great job kicking off. You did a great job building awareness to it. But you know what, dude? You might want to just take a look in the mirror before you walk out of your house if you want to be the flag bearer for something that's so important to society right now. All right. We're going to close up the show with my challenge. And my challenge to everyone is, let's just pump the brakes a little bit. Here's the thing. I get it. And there are lines you have to not draw in the sand. There are lines you have to draw in the concrete. If they're my dad, my twin brother, my uncle, all proud police officers. I've said this 1,000 times. They would stake their reputation, how they treated people against anyone's. It was awesome. But if there's police brutality going on, I agree. There is no excuse for that. But when we start to go down the rabbit hole here, right now, Iowa is being criticized because their strength and conditioning coach, what's his name here? Chris Doyle, is being scrutinized for, the way he treated certain players. Some of those players were African-American. Well, here's the thing. I've met a lot of strength and conditioning coaches. A good friend of mine happens to be a strength and conditioning coach. I also am the son of a football coach. So I grew up with football coaches around me all the time. There's one thing that's universally understood in the sports arena from a coach's relationship with his players, the good ones at least. If they yell at you, it means they care about you. If you're not being yelled at, probably don't care about you. They don't care if you succeed or not. But if they're yelling at you, encouraging you, whatever the case is, that means they care about you. And strength and conditioning coaches, here's all they care about. There's one thing that they care about. They don't care about the color of your skin. They don't care how long your hair is. They don't care how much money you have. They don't care who your girlfriend is. They don't care anything other than, can you help our team win? You could be a leprechaun that's green. And if you can kick a field goal 55 yards and no one else in the team can, you're going to be the kicker for the team. If you're the best athlete, strength and conditioning coaches do not care what skin color you are. They don't care what language you speak. They care if you can help their team win. Now, if this Chris Doyle from Iowa, if it turns out that he was, maybe being unfair towards African-American athletes versus white athletes, treating them unfair to a point where it went against everything I just said, then yes, there needs to be an investigation. There is an investigation. If they find that out, then yeah, he needs to suffer the repercussions. But for the love of God, let's just pump the brakes. Not everyone and everything that's going on in society over the past, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years is because white people don't like black people. It might just be that this guy might just be an asshole to all of his players. And that's how he drives his players. He didn't exactly get the job last week. He's been there for a while. But like I said, that's why I say pump the brakes. Let's let the story come out. If he acted like this to everyone, then the university needs to say, hey, is this the way we want our kids motivated? If he just treated black players unfairly, then yes, then he needs to lose his job. But if what he's been doing works and the player's like, you know what, I'm a better person for it, I'm a more disciplined athlete for it, I'm a more disciplined human being for it, then you know what? Maybe it's the right thing, and we're getting a little too excited about every little situation. Stick with the focus. Folks, I'm out of time. I really appreciate this entire time that I had. Episode 4 is in the books. Once again, follow us on the RTS Sports Network, on Twist, The Week in Sports Talk, on Facebook, my show, Green Bay Greg, the one that comes before me, Benzie's Bit, the one before that, Mike on the Mic, or the main show where you get all three of us clowns together, Twist, The Week in Sports Talk. Thanks a lot, folks. Have a great week.